Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are now listening to Rob and Rat's World of Wonder podcast. So sit back, relax, and prepare your ears as they take you on a journey of all things weird and wonderful.
Hello and welcome to the World of Wonder podcast series on the Rob Rat podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Rats, and we're back for another week, another episode.
You're very welcome along. If you're a first-time listener, thanks for finding us and thanks for tuning in. This podcast looks at things that are weird and wonderful from around the world. And if you are coming back to listen to us again, thank you very much for returning.
Yeah, thanks a million. And you can follow us on Instagram at Rob Rat Podcast, Facebook Rob and Rats Wow Podcast. You can get us on Spotify, SoundCloud, all of them formats at Rob Rat Podcast. And we'd really appreciate it, even on iTunes or thing. Give us a follow, give us a review, 5 stars, all that jazz.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think now we're going to go to our world-famous news segment, Rob and Rats World of Wonder News.
Let's do it.
Rob and Rat's Weird and Wonderful News.
Okay, so it's the news.
So this is our news segment where we look at stories from around the world that probably you may not even have heard of because, you know, and if you're sick of hearing the old regular news, this is a different look on the news, yeah.
So my story this week is the 1950 science kit that had real uranium in it.
Right, real uranium.
Yeah, it's crazy. An American inventor, Alfred Carlton Gilbert, sought to bring the marvel of nuclear physics to the playtimes of children across America. So he came out with kind of a children's atomic energy lab.
Jesus.
And it actually, it consisted of actually having real uranium in it. And when the kits launched, children were generally overwhelmed by its complexity. And Gilbert later admitted that some of the kit's features may have been a bit advanced for younger children.
But real uranium?
Oh, yeah.
So they could have got like...
Yeah, like, kind of like in the age of the atom and all that stuff, he thought, oh, this is kind of help, you know, them teach stuff, blah, blah, blah. But as safety concerns mounted, the kits were quickly removed from store shelves.
I can imagine so, yeah.
And but an estimated 5,000 made its way out to the world. And apparently the pits, they cost like, they were $50 at the time, which would be about $400 in today's...
Yeah.
So
So
it was only
you want to
well-off
have rich
families
parents
that
to be
had
getting
it.
that.
But I'd say that'd be worth a lot. If you had one of them now, it'd be dangerous, but worth a lot of
Yeah,
worth a lot of
uranium's
money.
expensive, is it? I presume it probably is.
Well, I'm not saying even uranium, but I'm just saying the kit as a kind of collector's item itself would be.
Yeah,
you know.
imagine so, yeah.
If anyone has a uranium kit,
Post us a bit of uranium. In other news, right? So there's a football club, and they had earned the name of the worst professional football team in Britain. They had a 73-game losing streak, and it stretched back 840 days, which is more than 2 years. I don't know, you did the maths on that, but it's pretty long. It's like about 2.5 years, I think. Anyway, the team ended its 73-game losing streak because last season, for instance, right on their team sheet, so they were at the very bottom of the league, and they were minus 221 on goal difference. So they're pretty bad team, right?
God.
But in positive news, they won their first game in 73 games, and they won 5-2 there recently.
Jeez, that must have been a big celebration.
Oh, they went on the piss for days afterwards, yeah. So they're a Scottish team. Their name is Fort William, and they bet a team called Nairn County.
I can only imagine the celebration of that.
Oh, you can imagine. If you haven't, like, 73 games and you haven't won a game, you're minus 221 on on your points last season. So, like, on your goal difference. So to come through and win, I'm sure they just got very excited, and you know,
like that to them was the World Cup.
Pretty much, yeah.
Just one victory.
Yeah. So that's a feel-good story for them, and that's our news.
That was the news.
That was the news.
Rob and Rat's Weird and Wonderful News.
In this episode, we're going to be looking at life extension. Okay, so life extension. So the dream for a lot of people is just basically to live forever, right? It's a thing that kind of like people dream of, like eternity or...
I know, I've mentioned in the past, but just that is my one fear is death, you know.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. Well, not one, I've loads. I'm afraid of your cat. But everyone is, most people are afraid of death. It's the unknown.
I think it's the unknown, yeah, but it's also people just don't want life to end. People do like enjoy
Keep the party going.
Keep the party, just keep on going, yeah. But so like, there's loads of things, like even the thing that people don't want to get older and look older. Like there's a whole industry dedicated to, like, you see all those ads on telly and they're like, you know, age defending serums and all that sort of stuff, but they don't actually say that they make you younger. They reduce the appearance of aging. So they make you know, they reduce the appearance, but they don't actually do anything to fight the aging process, right? But there's what we're going to talk about here today. Later on, I'm going to give you an interview, and I'll get into what we're going to talk about in that in a little bit. But at the start, just some scientific things that are available at the moment to try and help people fight the aging process, or to maybe help with life extension. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's been a new blood test, and the blood test has now been able to predict, and it's got an 80 to 85% accuracy on if you are going to die or not in the next 10 years. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's fairly new technology, right? So basically, they take the blood test and they're looking at certain proteins and certain things in the blood, and they're able to predict whether or not you're going to die in the next 10 years.
This is genuine thing, like.
Yeah, so there's been a breakthrough, right? So 44,168 people were surveyed, which is a big survey.
Yeah,
like, it's a lot of people.
that is a lot of people.
And it was done over 16 years.
Okay.
So it's a fairly, it's a big survey. So, and it was done in Germany, where they take things pretty serious over there, right? So, it's not like, I don't know, in someone's basement that they're doing this.
It's not for the crack.
So they're really doing it, right? So over 16 years. And they reckon that with roughly about 83% accuracy, they're going to be able to say whether or not in the next 10 years you're going to die due to whatever they find in your blood. And generally nowadays, if you go into a doctor or a physician, they can kind of give you 1 year to live. They don't generally say, oh, you've got 2. You know what I mean? 1 year is the kind of time frame. And they base that on things like BMI, blood pressure, all these other sorts of things that show up in your blood and stuff like that. But now this is going to be a massive predictor. Like, you can say 10 years.
It's that whole question that people often say, if you could know if and when you're going to die, would you want to know? And I don't think.
But the whole thing with this science is, right, this is what we're talking about, life extension. So if you go in and they say to you, you're going to die in the next 10 years, you've got time to change your lifestyle.
Are you talking to me?
You've got time to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You've got time to change your habits.
Okay.
And you can actually then live a more healthy lifestyle.
It, yeah.
So it's not definitely.
It's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee, but it's if you continue on your lifestyle now, this is your this is your life.
Oh, I don't know why I feel better. I feel better already that you've said that.
But it's it's mad to know. But that's so like, for instance, like other ways of like. So when people talk about living longer, right, they often say that the main problem with not being able to live forever is with the brain. Okay. So
because the brain shuts down.
Well, the brain can't. So basically, the options are like, say you've got problems with your joints, right? You can replace your knee, you can replace your hip, you can replace your shoulder, you can do all that. That can be replaced. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, no, sorry.
You feel a bit uncomfortable here.
I hate talking about all these body parts.
Well, there's going to be a lot of that going on the next while. he's squirming in the chair over there.
Sorry.
But basically, like, so as I said, if you've got problems with your joints, elbows, that can all be replaced. And then you can get, like, if you've got problems with your hands and feet, you can get these prosthetics put on.
Yeah.
Right, so they can even be linked to your brain, and you like robotic hands.
Yeah, I've seen them. Very expensive, I'd imagine. But
And then, for instance, even your like heart, lungs, kidneys, all that stuff, you can get them transplanted and get them put in. But with the brain, you cannot have a brain transplant. That's where the consciousness lives. It's in the head. You're finding this
I am finding.
You're finding this very difficult.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. No, I get that. Yeah, because the brain obviously is the epicenter. You know what I mean? It's you cannot replace that. Yeah,
that's where it all is. And basically, like, and also, if you were to replace all the parts of your body and do all sort of stuff, if you were to go on, they cannot still fight Alzheimer's and dementia. That is something. So there's no point in you going on with all this brand new body.
Yeah,
but you're cognitively like not there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like. Science gone into what they're trying to do is figure out the genes and the stuff like that causes this in later life.
Okay.
So there's a thing called CRISPR technology, right? Which is like it's CRISPR, it's gene editing. So they're able to kind of like.
Is that a lot of something to do with what's them things that you can what's it called, that research where you take from a fetus,
embryos and stuff like that, is it? Like stem cells?
Stem cell research.
Well, I don't know if it's so much like that. Basically, like CRISPR deals with your genetics, it deals with your DNA. So, like, some people have genetic diseases, right? So, like, say for instance,
if it's in your family or whatever.
Yeah, and they're neurological ones that affect the brain. So, like, Huntington's disease is one that's like it's a degenerative neurological disease, which means it starts to degenerate your brain, right? But they can isolate the gene that causes this, right? So, and it's hereditary. So, if someone in your parents have it, there's a good chance you're going to get it.
Yeah.
But say you decide to go and have a baby, they can take your DNA and check and see like who's the carrier of it, and they can remove that from the DNA.
So your child won't.
And then you can go for IVF and have an IVF baby.
Yeah.
And then that baby will not be born with that gene, and that means that then they will no longer be a carrier, and that eliminate. It's mad, but that's the technology, and that's ways of looking to extend life.
Yeah, and in the future, being able to do that, with different diseases,
and just things. Eliminate it all. Now, there was a guy, I think he was in China, and we got in a bit of trouble over it. In China, yes. He got in a bit of trouble over it because he went and he eliminated HIV from like these. It was a set of twins and some woman who was having babies, but he did it illegally and he shouldn't have been doing it.
Because they didn't ask.
The parents weren't really sure. Neither of the parents had HIV, but he removed the genetic gene that would allow the HIV to exist in the body.
But that event kind of changed.
But that's it. You see, you're very careful what you do. You're playing God. You got to be careful what you're doing there, right? So he kind of jumped the gun.
That's awful.
Yeah, he got in a lot of trouble now. Like
I can imagine.
Yeah,
did he go to jail? Or
I don't know, because I think in China, like you don't know what they're doing over
China?
there. You don't know what they're doing over there. You know. Yeah. But anyway, as I said, like with organs and stuff like that, they're looking to grow things in labs now and everything. Like,
grow your own.
Well, like kidneys and all that sort of stuff, things that you will get transplanted. But like in countries like where there's a black market, you know, you can probably
3D print it.
Well, in a way, do you know what I mean? That's the type of thing they're doing. It's like there's going to be like a black market for this stuff, like in countries, you know, people can get their kidneys bought and stuff like that. And I've been looking online. There's rumors of like
pirate copy of your lungs.
Human farms where like people are being kept, like so the rich and elite will find people with their similar like matching, you know, the way you have to get someone that matches yours to take, you know, if you give a kidney, if I'm a match for you, I can give you mine. So they're out there and they're trying to find in certain countries like Russia,
kidnap them,
take them and keep them for spare parts.
Oh, that's not funny.
No, it's not funny, but that's true. It's happening out there. So the people
God,
are like,
that is mad,
isn't it? Yeah.
I've got someone in the fridge.
Well, yeah, I've just got someone there. Like my kidney's going bad, take theirs, and so I can go and drink and do what I want and destroy my liver because I've got John in there, and I'll just take his liver and put it into my body.
That's kind of why we did. Like we got rid of Mick because he was a universal blood donor, and so we, for our own selfish purposes, we got rid of him.
That's Mick, our voiceover artist guy that you hear at the start. Yeah.
God rest him.
Rip. But yeah, so and that basically the thing at the moment is the brain. So they need to be able to get the brain sorted to live for longer in order to extend the life for longer. So there are thoughts that you might like transfer the brain into a computer.
Yeah.
Do you know? So you got to download consciousness and then it can just live forever.
Upload it to Google Drive.
Well, upload it. I don't know. And you become like half a robot then, and you know, like you know, the robot generation takes over. Yeah. It's like, you know, you go into like Tesco or one of those shops. And people are now have been replaced by self-service.
Yeah. Oh, you know, so speaking of that, just very quickly now, people have been replaced by self-service. You know, it's like place your bag in the baggage claim, remove your item, scan, pay. I was in a shop in town called Deals. It's one of these shops you can get things for cheaper, whatever.
Yeah, they get deals.
But up at the till, their personal checkout thing had Yoda's voice. They can obviously change the voices on that. So, but I swear to God, that was it. I was like, take your change, you will. And that was genuinely it. I beeped and I was like, your change, good day, goodbye.
That was
cool though.
That's cool, yeah. But one thing I always feel is when you go into, you know, they've replaced people and then you go in, there could be like 7 like self-service checkouts there, but there's always still one person who's minding them. Do you know what I mean? And you're standing there and like, you know,
waiting for that person to.
Yeah, but you know the way, like you're in a queue and all you're doing is watching all the self-service checkouts. You're looking to see where am I going to go next? Where's my space? And then like one frees up, and then that person goes points over there, and you go, I know, I've been watching. Like that really annoys me. I don't need to be told. I know where I'm going. And then you're there, and then it doesn't work, and then they come over and they either put in a code or they scan a little barcode.
Yeah, we're all being taken over. Like I worked in the cinema. That was all. I mentioned it before, but it was all projection. You know, but now it's all been taken over by digital machines. You know what I mean? At one time, you laced up them machines. It's something that is happening.
Oh yeah, well it's taken over. Definitely,
it's the future.
It is. Like it's more and more things are getting replaced by technology. Like that's just
It's just the way things are.
Yeah. So anyway, basically. I've got some stuff, right, which is the Harvard Medical School posted some stuff on, like, tips on how to live longer. Okay. And top of the list is, like, don't smoke. It just seems to be, like, the one that's not there. Did you? Yeah. I did when I was younger as well. Yeah. But, like, and
I hope your mom isn't listening to this.
Good news for the fact that you've quit, right?
Yeah.
So this is from their side. So it says, if you want to live long, healthy life, make sure you're among the non-smokers. Smoking contributes to heart disease, osteoporosis, emphysema, and other chronic lung problems, such as stroke. It makes breathing during exercise much harder and can make activity less enticing. Yeah. But there is good news, okay? So people who quit smoking can repair some of it, if not all the damage done. After a smoker quits, the risk of heart disease begins to drop within a few months, and in 5 years, it matches that of someone who never smoked.
That's brilliant,
isn't it?
I know that they can completely heal. Like.
Yeah, stroke risk drops to that equal of a non-smoker within 2 to 4 years after a smoker quits. So it's actually it's worth quitting. So if you're out there still smoking,
it's worth quitting. Yeah, I mean, like if you've smoked for 40 years and you quit, you will get back to yourself.
And they reckon, if you quit before 50, like you've got a much better chance.
See, there was a news article there during the week of the first person apparently to die from vaping.
I saw that,
Yeah.
yeah. So vaping is supposed to be the safe alternative, but they reckon that there isn't.
Yeah, but I'd say it's still safer than smoking.
Probably, yeah. But some people have had the pipe thing blow up. It explodes and they've got a burn in their face from it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's not very nice. Another thing, Harvard.
No, it's not.
Another thing the Harvard website said is really important is like obviously a healthy diet.
Yeah.
Tomatoes have been shown to be one of the foods that can actually extend your life.
Really?
Yeah. So they've got
Heinz ketchup.
Well, I don't know. 'Cause it's probably full of sugar.
That is
but
full of sugar. Yeah, tomatoes. Do you like
tomatoes?
tomatoes?
I do actually like them. Yeah.
I want to hold a poll on our Instagram.
Do you like tomatoes? Why do people not like tomatoes?
I'm sure there is. We'll soon find out.
We'll set one up. Yeah, set one up. So tomato produces it's either an enzyme or something anyway, but it reduces bad cholesterol, increases good cholesterol, and helps lower blood pressure.
Yeah. So why aren't when we go into the hospital? Why aren't you rather than hooked up to a drip, hooked up to a tomato?
Well, that could be the future's ahead of you. But if you ever go to Italy, you see an awful lot of old women, and people live long lives in Italy. They do
just in general. If you ever go to Italy,
there is loads of old people.
Robert,
but I think Italians they eat a lot of tomatoes, and they do seem to live a longer life.
I don't want to go to Italy at all now on holiday. I just have this image of loads of 80 and 90-year-olds.
Hello,
I recognise them from the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, how would they recognise us?
Because by our voice.
Oh yeah.
Hello, could I buy a tomato?
Carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, another way to actually calories. So obviously eating loads and getting fat is not good for you, but actually eating a lot less. So
what if you eat loads of tomatoes?
Yeah, but they're probably not high in calories. Tomatoes. Yeah. But honestly, I think a male is supposed to have about 2,500 calories a day. A female about 2,000.
Okay.
So they reckon if a man is eating about 1,800 and a female is eating about 1,400, you're going to extend your life, but you're not going to be happy because you're not going to be able to eat as much. But they actually reject you because what the body kind of goes into starvation, preservation mode.
Okay.
So it stops it's actually better for the body apparently.
All right.
So there you go. So I just have a quick thing here, right? So the people that it's information on the people who live the longest in the world. But you know what? It's not working for me, so it's not clicking. So we might do it afterwards. Right?
Yeah, that's fine. Well, who are we talking to?
So who are we talking to today, apart from ourselves? Right? Is there's an interesting thing. So one of the ways that people have looked at extending life is the fact that we don't have the science to do it right now, but they may have it in the future. Okay. So freezing yourself. Okay, cryogenically freezing yourself.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Okay, so and when you start to look, I'll give you there's a company called Alcor. Okay, and they're an American company.
Alcor,
Alcor, Alcor. Yeah, and they will cryogenically freeze your body.
Apparently Walt Disney was meant to have done that.
Yeah, well, we get into that in the interview coming up.
Cool.
Yeah, so coming up in the interview. So, but before we do that, I'm just going to explain a little bit the process because I'm going to start the interview. Not where we started talking to her because the lady is one of the founders of Alcor.
Okay.
But she goes through a lot at the start.
That's really interesting.
Going on about the science and all that of it, okay? And she talks a lot about it. But I'll just give you a little quick breakdown.
Summary.
Because it kind of goes on for a bit. So basically what happens is you sign up to be an Alcor member, which is a company, and then you pay your money and
through their website.
Through their website, alcor.org, right? And if you go onto their website, it's actually good. It's like something out of a sci-fi film. But you're then a member and then it's on your medical records and all that. So when you die... So when you're clinically pronounced dead by in a doctor and you're in a hospital and they say you're dead and you're gone, those people are aware that you're in hospital and that you're about to die or else whatever. So they come in and they pack your body on a load of ice and stuff like that. And they start the freezing process because they're trying to preserve the body as quick as they can.
Okay.
Then they transfer you to their facility. They put you on a table and they start to they start to cool the body even more. They cut you open. So they cut you open in the sternum and they get to your heart and they open up all your blood vessels and stuff and they take all the blood out of your body. Because blood contains a lot of water, right? So that will freeze. So you don't want that to happen. So what they do is they put an antifreeze, in your car, something that doesn't freeze up. They pump all that in
into your body instead.
And then they start doing a CPR and pumping it all around the body so it gets into all the muscles and gets everywhere. So that when they do eventually freeze you, that your blood vessels don't. Because if you imagine, if you ever put a glass bottle with water or a plastic bottle into the freezer, the water is going to expand. Yeah. And it'll burst everything.
Yeah,
so
the bottle.
So they need to have something that's not going to fully freeze. That's going to go there. So they replace all that, and then what they do is they then put you into a big vat. It's a big container, and then they put in liquid nitrogen, and that liquid nitrogen is going to keep you extreme, whatever the temperature that is going to freeze you. So the thought process is that they're going to just hold you in there for a certain amount of time until the
like for years and years until the technology
it could be 50 there. I talked to her a bit about it. She's saying 50 to 100 years, but I think what they're looking for is fairly, the sciences. Yeah. But anyway, so I tell you what, we go to the interview with her. So we're picking it up after we just spoken about what the process is, and I'm kind of asking her then what's going on after that. Okay. So Linda is this lady's name. And Linda is one of the founding members of Alcor.
I'm actually really looking forward to this.
Yeah, here we go.
They'll be placed in liquid nitrogen for long-term storage.
Okay. And how long is long-term storage? What's the thought process at the moment? How long do you think a person will generally be stored?
Based on current medical technology and the rate at which we think it will progress, our best guess is a range of between 50 and 100 years before we have revival technologies that are robust enough, powerful enough, that they will be able to repair our patients. Obviously, if you die of heart disease, you don't want to come back and still have heart disease. So we have to, number one, cure whatever it was that killed them in the first place. Number two, any further damage that might have been introduced during the cryopreservation procedures, which are still not 100% perfect. And number three, have to be able to rejuvenate our patients to a younger age. People don't want to come back and be 90 years old either. So 25 years old seems to be a very popular request, so those are the three things that revival technologies will have to be able to do, and our guess is 50 to 100 years.
Yeah, because there's quite a lot of, I suppose, scientific advances there that need to happen for those three items to kind of come together. But say that person does be brought back in 100 years' time. Are there plans put in place for, so say someone in 100 years' time, when they are reanimated or they are reawoken, those people no longer have a house or have money or jobs or stuff like that. So is there money put aside for these people, or do these people have does their insurance cover them for if they're reanimated? How does that work?
No, insurance doesn't cover that, but we do have two different revival trusts that our members can elect to use if they want to put aside money for the future. And one is a mechanism for people who can afford $500,000 or more, and the other one is for people who can't afford that much, and the minimum amount of investment in that is $25,000. So people do have mechanisms available to them that can help them solve that question.
Yeah, because you can imagine if you were to revive someone from the year 1920, 100 years later, it'd be a scary world to wake up in this world now and not have any money and not have a job. I'm just sure, but that's it's good to know that I suppose there is some sort of plan put in place for that. From reading, you can do neuro, so that's basically you freeze the head only. Is that correct?
Yes. The name neuro implies brain only, but it is too easy to damage a brain removing it from the skull, so we don't do that. If we did manage to get it out of the skull undamaged, we'd still need to find some kind of a cradle to protect it in. And what better than your own custom-made skull? So we do cryopreserve. The medical term is cephalon. It means all of the biological tissues of the head, and we go down to about C5 or 6 to do the separation.
And is the thought process with that when someone is reanimated, that their head will be put onto a new body of a 25-year-old or onto a machine, or what's the kind of what do people expect from this neuro?
Well, there are multiple options. The default is that you will be brought back as a biological human being. A new body will be grown for you from your own DNA, so it's your body. It just hasn't been damaged or aged, and that would be the default. many people want something more exciting, so there are such ideas, and they're still just speculation, but such ideas as instead of having a body made out of biological cells all stuck together and working together, that you would have a body made out of nanobots that are all stuck together and working together and could give you a lot of additional advantages over a biological body. Like, for example, you would be able to think like a minimum of 1,000,000 times faster, just based on the physics that electricity moves through silicon 1,000,000 times faster than it moves through biological tissue. So you'll be able to think faster and have a lot of other options available to you as well.
But this is just speculation, I suppose, at the moment. Is there?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is, because they can't do that today.
Yeah, of course. So you yourself, are you planning to be frozen?
Absolutely. I've signed up as a neuro member, and I'm one of those people that really doesn't want to be bored by coming back and being biological. I'd really rather have a nanobot swarm for my body.
So yeah, so you come back as like half machine almost. Is that kind of thought, like RoboCop or something like that?
Well, that would be a possibility. The thing is that if you have a body which is made up of trillions of nanobots, you can reconfigure it anytime you want to. So you could be RoboCop when that served your purpose. Most people will probably elect at least part of the time to look like they used to look when they were biological, and maybe at least when they're first getting adjusted to the new world. I guess everybody is different, and so the options, there will probably be a lot of options, and then different people will choose different ones of those.
And you have family members that have been frozen, is that correct? Or what do you call them, patients in status? Is that what it is, or how do you
Right.
How do you refer to it?
Yes. I have 3 family members in stasis. My husband, who was cryopreserved in 2012. He's the other founder of Alcor. He and I did that together. His father was cryopreserved in 1976 and was Alcor's first patient. And my mother was cryopreserved in 1990.
Wow, okay. So the hope is that maybe in 100 years you're all reunited together as a family again.
Yes, we certainly hope so.
That's amazing. And so the first man, I just reading, the first man ever to freeze himself or was frozen was Dr. James Bedford. Is he in your facility? Is that where he is?
Yes, he is. He made arrangements with friends to, and it's hard to say preserve him. He was basically a straight freeze. Nobody knew anything about how to do this at that time. And he had made arrangements to have a capsule made for him. After about 15 years, his capsule was failing, and his family was faced with, well, are we going to build a new one, or what are we going to do? So they came to Alcor and asked us if we would take over his care, and of course we said we would be honored to have him here. So he's one of our patients today.
But as you said, he was frozen in a different way, so is the thought process that maybe he doesn't have the same chances of revival?
Yes, that is a subject of much controversy and discussion. Even today, with our relatively sophisticated procedures compared to the early days, we don't always manage to, one of our members doesn't always manage to take advantage of them because of circumstances. For example, if a person lives alone, they die of a heart attack, and no one finds them for a week, the damage is already so far progressed that we really can't use the vasculature anymore. We can't do the cryoprotective procedures that can give them our very best efforts. And so even today, we have people who have very compromised circumstances. And of course, we hope that the revival technologies will be robust enough that they will be able to help those people as well. But since we don't know how robust revival technologies will be, we don't know yet if every single one of our patients will be revived. And so that's one of the things in our legal paperwork. We have a thing called Attachment 1, where people make certain decisions and they give us certain directives, and it's an attachment so that they can change their mind anytime they want and change those things. One of the things is, do you want to be neuro or whole body, for example? And another one is, if you can't cryoprotect me, here's what I want you to do with my funding. Alcor never touches the funding that members set aside for this unless they have specifically bequeathed it to us to use in the research fund or the operating fund or patient care trust or various ways that they can do that. But usually what they will say is, if you can't cryoprotect me, maybe they were in an airplane that went down in the ocean and the airplane was never found, so we can't cryoprotect them, can't keep them as patients. In that case, what do they want us to do with their funding? So they can tell us, whatever it is, please, return it to my family, or whatever. It's up to them to decide what they would want to do at that point.
Okay. And how many people do you have in your facility frozen at the moment, or how many patients, do you have at the moment?
We have 171 patients, and we have approximately 1,265 members, people who have made the legal and financial arrangements for this in advance. I can't tell you the exact number. Only our membership director knows that on the top of her head.
And so is there plans put in place, like say in the event of a power cut or the company runs out of money or something like that, what happens then? Is there procedures in place for that?
Well, yes. If we have a power outage, it doesn't matter. We do not refrigerate our patients. They are in liquid nitrogen, and liquid nitrogen, just in its normal state at room temperature, it is minus 320 degrees. It's minus 196 Celsius. So we don't have to refrigerate it. As far as a company failure or something, we have a separate organization with its own board of directors. It's called the Patient Care Trust, and it is there to make sure that long-term care is available for our patients, and revival is covered also. And that trust is worth approximately $17 million today. It's always growing for two reasons. Number one, it is invested very conservatively. We don't want to lose it. But number two, which is really the most important reason, of the funding that people set aside for this, a little bit more than 50% of it goes into the Patient Care Trust. So in other words, whole body cryoprotection today is $200,000. $100,000 of that goes towards getting the person cryopreserved. $100,000 of that goes into the Patient Care Trust to pay for long-term care and revival in the future.
Okay, but that no matter, say it takes 200 years before the technology comes around, that these patients are covered, even with that money.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And so just the baseball player Ted Williams, is he frozen there too, or is he one of your patients?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and another guy, I just want to, obviously you're from Ireland, we don't know a lot about baseball, but he's one of the kind of high-profile guys that I've heard of. And another thing, Walt Disney, did he get cryopreserved?
Unfortunately not. Walt Disney was interested in the 1960s, but there was no capability yet. So his interest is well known, but at the time of his death, there were no capabilities. So unfortunately, Walt Disney is not cryopreserved.
Okay. And somebody had their cat preserved. Is that correct?
Yes, we do cryopreserve pets. We have about 95 pets currently. We only do that for our members. We get calls all the time asking if we can cryoprotect a dying pet. But we explain to people we're not a pet cemetery, and there would be no reason for us to cryopreserve your pet if you're not going to be there for them. And, you know, if we were to revive a pet and they have no family, we would just have to, you know, like turn that pet over to animal control. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And is it just cats and dogs, or have there been any?
Well, it's mostly cats and dogs. We do have a chinchilla and a turtle in addition to cats and dogs.
Wow. Okay. Someone's throwing a turtle, and they're already in status, are they, or are they to be done? So, to somebody, so say I passed on and I'm being frozen, but my dog is still alive. Do you euthanize the dog and put it in with me, or wait for the dog to pass?
Fortunately for dogs and cats, we don't have to. We have no laws that make us wait until death is pronounced. So we do have a veterinarian that works with us. She comes in, and the family has some time to say their goodbyes to their beloved pet. The pet is then put to sleep so they don't suffer, and the procedure is started while they are still living, which gives them an advantage that humans don't get to have yet under our current laws, and that is they don't have the deterioration that is part and parcel of having to die a slow death, usually for months before a person dies. Their body is gradually deteriorating, and there's nothing we can do about that right now. But with dogs and cats, they don't have to go through that, so they get a cryoprotection.
You think it would be more beneficial for the person if they were to be cryogenically frozen while they were still alive, like, and if the law, that would give them a better chance, would it?
It definitely would, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe, okay, so that's something maybe in the future that might change if it's shown.
We certainly hope so. In this country, we have 50 states. 8 of those states have adopted death with dignity laws, which are one version or another of the right to have physician-assisted suicide. You can take end-of-life drugs so that you don't have to wait and, you know, continue to be in a state of pain and that sort of thing. And all of Canada has adopted physician-assisted suicide laws. And so we're hoping that that trend will continue in that direction, because it definitely is advantageous not to have to wait and let your body continue to deteriorate. For one thing, frequently cancer patients, it is not uncommon at all for metastases of a given cancer to move into the brain. And so cancer of the brain is not a good thing when you're trying to preserve that brain for future. And so, yes, it's definitely advantageous if you don't have to have that kind of deterioration take place.
Okay. Just one last question, just something I was thinking about. If I had a family member who had, instead of deciding to be buried, decided to put themselves into to be cryogenically frozen, am I allowed to still visit the body, or how does that work?
Yes, people can always come and visit. However, you have to understand that you don't see your loved one. They are in protective pods of aluminum, which are down inside a very large dewar. It's like a giant thermos bottle that has multiple patients in it, and so you can't actually see them. But it is very joyful to be in the patient care bay with them. I'm back in our patient care bay not daily, but multiple times every week. And I always experience this sense of closeness to my family members and a happiness that they do have potential for being able to be returned to healthy function, and maybe I'll get to see them again. So it's a very nice feeling to be there.
Yeah, and I suppose just by thinking about it, you're giving yourself a chance at least of the future, whether or not the science is there yet. But you've given yourself a chance rather than if you put yourself in the ground and you decide that you're just going to become, part of the earth and worm food again, or you can give yourself a chance of being frozen, I suppose, and with the chance of science someday, hopefully, being able to bring you back.
Right. At least you have a chance. You certainly don't have that chance if you're buried or cremated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Linda, it's been really, really nice talking to you today, and you've been very informative. So thank you very much.
Good. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. If people want, just one last question. Obviously, I'm talking to you from Ireland. If people in Europe and Ireland are interested in this type of thing, is there a way to become members of Alcor from outside of the U.S.?
Yes, we do have many European members, and our team, as I was mentioning, can go just about anywhere in the world. And we do have quite a large membership in London and not just in London, but in England, of members who have been members for a long time and have been trained in first response skills such that they would be able to go to a member who is dying, whether in the hospital or their home, and be there and perhaps do some first response things like packing them in ice until our team can get there, and to help do some of the coordination that's necessary. We work with a mortuary and expatriation company in London, which is very good at getting, they know the laws of the different countries and can help us navigate to get our member out of the country and back to the U.S. And so we do have mechanisms and experience in doing that.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. Okay, well, so if anybody wants to find out any more information, you've got your website, which is it's alcor.com, I think, is it? Or
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Alcor.org.
.org. Okay, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
well, Linda, thank you very much for speaking to me today. It's been very, very informative. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Okay, so that was the interview with Linda. What did you think?
I actually really liked that interview. I thought it was really informative, interesting. It's just but the amount of people that are, like 171 patients that are, they're now members,
and more people waiting.
They've 1,265 members.
Yeah,
like I like what you said to her there, kind of towards, like, I suppose whatever people think about cryogenics and doing this, I mean, the alternative is you're either turned to ashes or you're worm food. So in a sense, if you're doing this, you're giving yourself some sort of chance.
that's the whole.
Do you know what I mean?
Giving yourself a chance,
like,
right?
so who knows what the future holds? If it's 500, 600 years, and that's still, that could become something that's massive. And
well, that's it. You see, you don't know. What the whole thing is you're giving yourself a chance.
And it's cool. We got an answer to the question that, like, a lot of people wonder, like, is Walt Disney frozen? And that you have it there.
No, he didn't.
We got the exclusive.
Like, that's it. It's the thing. People always thought he was, and I thought he was.
Yeah.
But no.
And, like, her husband is frozen since 2012.
Her husband's there, and her mother and father. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah. A lot of her family.
Yeah.
That's really cool that you got to talk to one of the founders of that company.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's given us a voucher now for free.
But it's not. I didn't want to be because it's expensive. It's 200,000 to have your full body, or it's 80,000 to have just your head.
Yeah, what was that called? Nanos.
Neuro. So neuro just being the brain.
Yeah, I thought, it was interesting how she said, because I was thinking of that, like, if I die in my 90s or hopefully 110 and I'm still sound, I don't want to come back as a 110-year-old or 98. You know what I mean? But I found that interesting. She said, well, hopefully they'll be able to find a way to rejuvenate you younger.
Yeah, well, that's it.
They're aiming for 25, apparently.
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit of a stretch. He said in 50 to 100 years. So there's a lot of the stuff that she wants there that is like nowhere near, the technology to come back.
Not yet. I'd love to. I would if I had the money, I would definitely do that.
See, it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
It's say you do the 200,000 and you put your body in to do it, right? And then, as I said to her, there's a trust fund for money for when you wake up again. But if you wake up in 100 years' time, if you have like even 100 grand in the bank, 100 grand now, what's that going to be worth then?
The inflation, like.
Yeah, but it's going to be worth nothing. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like,
But no,
unless you invest in something now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you buy, like, what's your man, Zuckerberg? Zuckerberg is bringing out this currency of his own. He wants to bring out a cryptocurrency. It's a Facebook thing. So if you bought like some of that now, that could be worth
but it
loads.
mightn't even be around in
Yeah, it may not
100
be.
years.
Yeah.
But what are you coming back? Yeah, like if you come back and you've no cash, straight away you're on the dole.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Straight
like,
away on the
you
dole.
know no one.
I'm from the past and I'm on the dole.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then signing on is a hassle. Like,
I presume you wouldn't. I presume it'd be like you can probably just FaceTime on or something.
yeah, but you go up to them to sign on. Well, whatever way they've been doing it, then they're like, "Have you got your bets?" And it's like,
You're in England now, are you?
yeah, but whatever. I want to wake up in England. But like them even saying, "Are you having a laugh?" Because like it's from like I was born in 1985. This is the year 2190 or something. Do you know what I mean? That I really enjoyed that interview though. It is fascinating that people are doing it. And sure, look, why not?
Well, that's it. You're giving yourself a chance. And we spoke. She's mentioned that there's a guy, Dr. James Bedford, right? So he was the first man to ever want to freeze himself. It was his whole
but
thing,
things
right?
weren't as good back.
They weren't as good back then, but they still have him in status in there, right?
Yeah.
But so in 1967, he was frozen, but his son joined him in there in the year 2004. So he's also been cryogenically frozen. So he's hoping that he'll be getting woken up in years to come with his father.
Yeah, do you know what I think is really interesting as well? Like, if you think about, like, in the Afterlife episode, we spoke to the woman who, she died, she was in a coma. So say if what happens when we die, right, is, say you're signed up to be cryogenically frozen, both of us, and we know that when we die, we're going to be frozen. But say, hypothetically, say if it is, in 200 years, they're going to figure out how to do this, and we will be successful defrosted or whatever it is.
Reanimated.
Then technically what will happen when you're on a deathbed about to take your last breath and die and the last rites are read to you, then theoretically, literally the point that you are about to die and check out, you'll probably just wake up kind of a second later, but 100 years will have passed and you're 25 years old in the future.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
It's mad, like,
but it'd
isn't
be
it?
freaky.
And the weird thing, I'd
love if
I
that
spoke
could
to her at the end then about people having their pets frozen as well.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
But the fact,
cats and dogs.
Yeah, but she said, "Oh, luckily for cats and dogs, we don't have to wait till they die." I was thinking, luckily for who? Like, not for the cats and dogs, because they don't kill them; they freeze them while they're still alive. Because she reckons it gives them a better chance of survival.
Yeah, that's not right. That isn't.
Yeah,
right.
but she's hoping that
Like,
in the
that's
future laws are going to
animal
change that
cruelty.
you can actually She reckons that the best way for a human to be brought back
Frozen
is
alive.
Frozen alive. Yeah,
but if you're put under anaesthetic and then frozen, I guess. Oh God, that freaks me out.
yeah. Well, speaking of being frozen alive, right?
Let it go.
There's a man called Justin Smith. Okay, and Justin Smith, he was is an American guy, and I think it was in 2015, 2016. Justin was 25 at the time, and he was on his way home from a night out, and he slipped and fell into like snow, and he hit his head, right, and he was unconscious, and he was lying in the cold for nearly 12 hours, and it was like 5 degrees below zero, and it was still snowing. Okay, so emergency personnel arrived, and they couldn't find signs of life. Someone even draped a white sheet over Justin's head. And the coroner was called, and he was brought. The state police started work on a death investigation to see how he had died. So even his parents were phoned to tell him that he was dead and everything, and he brought into the hospital. And when he brought in there was a doctor who reckoned that he may still have a chance. So he ordered the medical staff to start doing CPR on him, and they did CPR on him for 2 hours while they flew him to another hospital 2 hours away, continued the CPR. When they got there, they did a transfusion of blood and put warm, oxygenated blood into his body.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, he woke up from a coma.
That's amazing.
Full neurologically intact and everything, cognitive.
I'd love to
He
get
was
him
absolutely
on the
fine.
podcast.
I have looked around to see if I can try and get a contact for him. I haven't been able to find him at the moment, but we'll keep looking at it.
Should we have our investigators? We'll get
So
them
we'll get Mick onto the case and see if you can do it.
Mick
But like
has
it's quite a long. There's an article online. It's quite a long article, but like basically the doctor reckons that the coldness actually saved him.
Yeah,
So what it did-
that's like, if you remember our Afterlife episode, we spoke to Christiana who died, and they reckon it was what saved her was it was a really cold morning.
Yeah, so they reckon
And
that
there's
a
in
lot.
that.
Yeah, so they reckon that it slowed down the heartbeat and all that sort of stuff that gave him the signs that he was dead, but actually, like, there was still some life in him. They were able to warm him up, so they had brought him back to life, and that's a lot.
So if you go to someone's house, like maybe it might be a relative, and you're staying the night, and it's winter and it's freezing, and
Yeah.
you're thinking, why doesn't that tight bastard put on the heat?
Yeah.
Maybe he's not being
They're just trying to keep themselves
Maybe
alive.
it's if you have a heart attack while you're staying in their gaff, you'll have more chances to survive.
They're just extremely considerate. Yeah.
They're not tight at all.
But your man Justin, he lost his fingers and toes due to frostbite.
On the flight over to... Oh, no, due to frostbite.
Due to frostbite for being out there. Because your body... This is interesting.
Oh,
your body,
God.
right? What your body does is, say, like, to keep your brain and all...
It takes blood from...
takes the blood from all the extremities just to keep that going. You find all this very uncomfortable,
No,
don't you?
I can't, like,
Talk
deal
about
with...
blood and guts.
No,
and,
blood, I really can't, like...
Really?
So I'm actually,
Right.
very...
So the episode that we're going to do on blood next is really going to bother
No,
you.
no, I don't mind talking about blood, but I hate talking about body parts and things like that.
Yeah. Well, you see, okay, and on the other hand, so there is some scientific kind of thought processes to it, but most of the scientific community think that cryogenics is quackery, and there is no basis for science in it.
Is
at the
that like
moment.
good crack?
No, quackery is in like they're quacks. You know what I mean? They're
I
like,
thought you said crackery.
no, they reckon they reckon it's bullshit.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
There's some
But you know what, I
some
don't
guy
care. At
said
least
it's
they're
the
trying
equivalent of taking a beef burger out of the fridge and trying to like make a cow out of it. You know what I mean? Or
Oh, Jesus.
that's what he's saying, or out of the freezer. But like, so they're just saying there's no basis really in science for it at the moment. But the argument of the lady there was that they don't have it at the moment. That's why they're freezing people. So in the future they may be able.
I'd
to
love
try and
if
make them.
I couldn't be able to afford that, but like if they could just take, you never know, it might advance it just even from your DNA. They'll be able to rejuvenate you. You know, if I had enough money and did something like the size of a can of Coke to freeze my finger in or something, do you know what I mean? It might be a cheaper option.
Oh, just bring your finger back.
No, but I'm saying no.
In the
But,
future.
but I'm saying like use my DNA to recreate my body, like a clone of me or something. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just saying I can't afford to freeze my body. I would if I could.
Well,
I
we
actually
can
would.
start with- I'll
Would
tell
you
you-
do it if you had the money?
Well, you see, this is the whole thing as well. They reckon it's a bit of a like a scam, you know, because they're like if you
But they're
never,
actually- yeah.
So they say 200,000, right? 200,000 to freeze your body, and then you're setting up a trust fund for yourself and everything. Whereas they're just big freezers, so they're putting you into a
Well,
freezer.
no, it's like it's liquid nitrogen.
It is, I know, but like it's still a big
But it has
freezer.
to cost money to house them,
Yeah, but-
to employ people in the factory, to do the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. Of course, look, I don't know. Like it's just like whether or not it is just like I don't know.
I know
getting
what
money.
you're saying, yeah.
And then, like I say, in 150 years' time, when everybody who's
Defrosted.
related to you is dead and all that, and there's a load of money in an account somewhere, who's to say these people just don't take it and do whatever, you know?
Yeah, but then again, I suppose if you only have money to freeze yourself, you're like coming back, it'd be kind of lonely. Like everyone you've known is gone. And it even
Well, that's why people are doing
your mind
doing it
around
in your family. People like freezing their families together and their pets and everything.
But even that kind of wrapping your mind around how far advanced society will be, what will we be at?
But like, say 200 years ago, so 1819. If you brought someone from then till now, could you? Like, what, they wouldn't even have a place in this world.
yeah,
What would they do?
I like trying to explain to them how to set up
What
a
a
Facebook
podcast is.
account. Set up a Facebook account.
Do you know?
Oh, it'd wreck your head.
It's
You'd
like 'cause
probably
even,
end up
even
just,
trying to explain to an old person how to send an email at the moment is difficult. Could you imagine trying to explain that to someone who's like from 200 years
yeah,
ago?
that'd be really annoying. Yeah, trying to like teach them. What shall I press again?
Yeah.
Just press that. No,
Alexa? Do you ever see
yeah,
those-
yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, that's been the life extension episode.
I genuinely really enjoyed that one.
somewhat informative anyway.
No, it's good. It was
Yeah.
interesting.
So, look, guys, if you enjoyed what you've heard here today, give us an old like on our Facebook and Instagram accounts, and maybe go on to
iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, because that really does help. And thanks a million to everyone who's done it so far. and
it just
people
helps
for
other people
following.
find our podcast.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just kind of brings us a little bit further up the list and helps
Yeah.
people find us.
You know what I mean? We'd like to keep making these and keep going.
So that brings a conclusion to today's episode.
We'd actually like to keep making these, even if we can be cryogenically frozen and brought back in the year 2112.
Yeah. Episode, whatever we're on then.
Yeah.
The life after freezing.
Life after Mick.
Yeah. Oh, could we freeze Mick as well? We could start a GoFundMe account to freeze the three of us. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. It's been fun. It's been real.
Yeah. Catch
Goodbye.
you next week. Cheers, guys.
You have been listening to the Rob Rat Podcast. Be sure to check out our social media for updates on the next episode. And if you liked what you heard, then let us know by hitting the subscribe button, sending us a message, and telling a friend, because that's how the podcast grows. Thanks for listening.